Teller is a famous eComStation developer. You are creating system utilities, researching user interface. So let's make some questions to you.
Sure.
What do you offer change in the font subsystem of eComStation?
What should we change?
What should you change and what is possible?
Well, you can. The thing is, font support in Presentation Manager is controlled by modular drivers. You can write, in principle, you can write new drivers, put them in just by registering them. We have the built-in drivers are Adobe Type Manager, which is for ATM, aka Type 1 PostScript fonts. Also, TrueType fonts, TrueType.dll, and Presentation Manager itself has built-in support for a couple of other font types. There's also the replacement TrueType driver, which I've recently started maintaining, FreeType.dll, which is also called FreeType 2. That doesn't provide any new font support, but it does improve the quality of the TrueType font support that exists. Now, what I would like to do is write a new one based on FreeType, but uses version 2 of the FreeType library. The current driver uses version 1. If we do that, we could get support for OpenType fonts, and maybe even BDF bitmap fonts that they use under Unix, and anything else that FreeType version 2 supports. So that I think would be very much worthwhile to do. However, what we can't do is overcome the limitations inherent in Presentation Manager's architecture. So no anti-aliasing, no font names longer than 31 characters. Now you can do that, but you have to use a separate library for that, and you have to do that on an application level. Like Mozilla, SeaMonkey, Firefox, Thunderbird, they do that. OpenOffice takes a similar approach.
Okay. So. How do you think the user interface of eComStation is reactive? Maybe add more animations, different
special effects. If you think you can do it without compromising system stability, I don't have a problem with that. On the other hand, I find a lot of people find OS2 valuable because they're a little conservative in their approach. Some people like the fact that OS2 doesn't use up a lot of processing power on fancy graphics, animations, movies. You don't have like transparency effects on windows or windows that bounce around or spin around in circles when you open them. That's I don't think there'd be a great deal of value in stuff like that. On the other hand, incremental improvements to the overall appearance of the user interface, that's something that we would like to do. I think I would like to see if we can do it. You know, your eCosoft Sunny Icons package, that's actually an excellent idea. It makes a huge difference to the appearance of the operating system. So if we can get something like that is stable and doesn't impact system stability and doesn't impact system performance significantly, that's certainly something that I'd like to see become a mature part of the platform.
Okay. Some words about eComStation installer. What do you think about downloading the updates from internet? You installed eComStation and the installer is downloading files. What do you think about this?
You mean first time install or?
Yes, first time install.
Well, I think actually it's not much of a stretch. I mean, for a long time OS2 supported remote LAN-based installation, and extending that to work over TCP/IP isn't that much of a stretch. In fact, I actually did take a look at implementing something similar.
Based on native libraries or?
Based on native libraries. I don't know how much of this is still reliable in ECS 2.1, but with ECS 1.2R, I actually put a fair deal of effort into making sure that you can install over a network. You can run ECS 1.2 Media Refresh install over a network if you have the right startup diskettes. And architecturally speaking, the installer is designed in such a way that should still be possible. you have to just make sure that you have the bootstrap environment that creates the network, sets up the connections, and so on. That would be done in the boot floppies or the boot CD that you use. Now, I also looked. The implementation that I had for ECS 1.2 was NetBIOS based. I have looked at doing it for TCP/IP. Again, it should be possible. It's not much of a stretch given the architecture we have now, and I'd like to do it, or I'd like to see it done. Of course, it's as with everything, it's yet another thing that you have to put on your list of things to do.
Yes.
So
one more feature request. When you install eComStation, you click mouse many times. You should select many options. What do you think about such feature? Instead of any LVM usage, the user runs a new program which is able to remove all hard drive, all partitions on the hard drive, and this utility is aimed only to install eComStation without extra efforts. Remove everything and expand the eComStation.
well, I mean, in a sense we have that already. You've got the SID-based install. I'm not sure what it's called. We call it response file install, I think. You have a previous configuration that's defined in files. Then when you go to the installer, the third or fourth page gives the option advanced, simple, maintenance console, and the last option is response file install. You just click that. If you have the files that define the configuration, you can just walk away and come back and the system's installed. Now what we could do with that is, I suppose, have some sort of very simple configuration GUI that just says click a few buttons, scan the system, and then automatically generate these response files and start the response file installation mode. You know, that's not much of a stretch, but again, you know, somebody has to sit down and do it.
Do you help to Japanese users? Do they contact you? Do they need help with installation?
What sort of users? Just any?
Japanese.
Oh, Japanese users?
Japanese.
Generally speaking, no. They seem to be a fairly close-knit community. You know, my Japanese isn't particularly good. I can only vaguely talk to them. I have made a few posts and gotten a few responses on the Japanese OS2 community forum, and you know, some have been provided with the Japanese beta of eComStation. To be honest, I don't quite know really how to get into that market because, as I say, they're kind of a closed circle, and it's difficult. It's difficult to kind of get an access to it if you don't speak fluent Japanese because, you know, most of them don't speak very good English, if at all, so it's tricky, but I certainly want to get more of that side of the market going. I think there is potential there. I really do.
Okay. What sites do you visit? What news groups? Where to find you?
Where to find me? Well, best way to contact me, honestly, is email. I don't use chat very much. I occasionally can be found on the NetLabs IRC channel. Very, very occasionally. I do read news groups fairly frequently. The OS2 news groups, comp, OS, OS2, dot, everything, pretty much. MISC, apps, good choices. I check those pretty much every day. Also, the eComStation news groups on the Mensa server. I check those multiple times a week. Some of the NetLabs news groups on Gmain I also check. So yeah, if you want to contact me, probably the best way is either email or through one of those news groups. I don't generally post on forums like OS2 World, but I occasionally monitor them.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.